different of a feel and a look does UNLV present in present day than they did 10 months ago?
Oh, no question. I mean, you look, they've made some really, really good additions. I think you look especially up front, their defense, their front seven, and then offensively, just golly, I mean, they do have really, really good balance. I mean, they're probably running the ball about 140 yards a game. They're throwing for about 240 a game, and the back is enormous. I mean, he's every bit of 6'2", 225 pounds, and it's Derrick Henry. I mean, just the size and the power and the way the pile always moves.
Yeah, I mean, he's made you're talking about Aiden Robbins, the kid from Louisville. I mean, he's made that offense go.
He has. Brumfield's played really, really well too, and I think the team aspect of it, there's a reason why they're 4-2. You look at the turnover margin, they've been really, really good that way. I think they've forced like 12 or 14 turnovers and, have held on to it pretty well too. So they're good. And yet I'm not, I'm not at all surprised. I thought last year you saw ability-wise, this is a really, really good team. I remember when the day was I was like, God, you remember San Jose, how quickly they turned around from one year to the next. These guys have enough talent where they absolutely could too, and they have.
Brumfield, I would assume you're preparing for him and the others. Where has he elevated his game and been the quarterback that he is?
Just he puts the ball where it needs to go, in terms of the progression part of it, where you can clearly see whenever it's a progression read, as far as putting the ball, not only getting the ball to the right guy, but putting it in a good spot for a guy to do something with it after he catches. And then the threat that he is a runner too. It was what was the game? It was North Texas. You look at the North Texas game, and he's got 12 carries for 100 yards in that game, and so he's a threat to be able to move too.
Defensively, they're forcing a lot of turnovers, mostly in the interception department. Why? What are they doing schematically?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, they are really, really good up front, and so what they do, they get near the passer. They're disruptive. I think their size is the reason why they've forced so many turnovers, not only via interceptions, but being able to knock balls loose. And they do have a bunch of good players up front, and they've not only through recruiting, but also being able to add guys. They've done a good job of that too. When you look, whether it's a guy from Utah or a guy from TCU or a guy, a couple of guys in there from 2-year schools also. That's been really, really helpful for them. They've done a heck of a job.
There's been a lot of thought nationally that being in Vegas and the commitment they're making with the Raiders and the Golden Knights and now UNLV playing, this is a program that seemingly is really trending upwards in a fast, furious pace.
Yeah, no doubt. You look at their football facility. They did a complete operations overhaul, a brand new football operations building, in addition to being able to play at Allegiant. And in the scope of the city, the size of the city, an area that's booming. And they've piggybacked on all that, and it's not only been, it's been in football, it's volleyball. When you look at a good number of their activities.
And remind me, the back, did you see him last year in the bowl game? I don't
remember him. No. I don't remember him. I don't remember him. If
okay.
That's
was
what
he on the roster at that point?
I can't tell you. I don't know.
Okay, all right. And are you? I guess you understand the ingredients that go into this rebuild. Are you still surprised to see a team be able to do this fast?
Not at all. I just think you look across college football, and just how suddenly rosters change and evolve. And golly, who was it? I think even you look beyond this. How was Oklahoma win so many games one year and USC didn't? And how does it? And I think that's a pretty really a quite vivid example of the way teams can change pretty instantly. I looked the year before. I thought Utah State. How significantly they were able to change, and I think it's, going forward, this is something that I think we could see frequently. It's not so much of, I don't want to say you aren't building a program. You're always building a program, but just in terms of there are going to be some teams where it happens immediately.
And going to a new venue in the conference, it's been a while since a new venue has been introduced. Do you do anything different, to look at the clock, do anything to just kind of get your bearings?
We will not. Now, I think obviously it's got to be a pretty neat. I mean, just the opportunity to play in this facility is really, really splendid. Just just golly, you look at it, you see all the investment that's been made in it, and you think hearing about the last 4 years, whatever they've been as far as new NFL stadiums, one in Los Angeles, in this one. And I got to believe if the NFL approves it, has a hand in the way these things are financed. All the amenities, all the space, all the room, the suites, all that will be a great, great environment.
Can it help another team in the conference, like an Air Force, even as you're recruiting, just kids want to play in a place like this? If they know that's on the schedule. I know it's a weird way to look at it.
I mean, maybe. I guess to answer your question, once in a while, does somebody bring up? They used to. It's been a while playing in Qualcomm. Just because Qualcomm over the years would host a Super Bowl about every 6-7 seasons. For this, perhaps it could.
And you're already at the halfway point of the season. Does anything stand out as maybe on the positive side first? Does anything that maybe the team has shown?
I think the positive is just obviously the resiliency. I mean, to be able to play so many different guys and still to be competitive in most of our games, because we have been. And, we'd like to get a couple of guys, return to being involved. But I think just being able to hang in there, especially playing, I think at some point, or at least I hope later on, some of the guys that have been involved maybe a little bit more than we thought they would be at the beginning of the season, those experiences I think can pay off.
Okay. On the negative side, is there anything that maybe you haven't seen that, or as much of, other than the injuries, that maybe you would like to have seen at this point?
I'd say, golly, you look. I don't want to say that to play more snaps, have more guys involved playing snaps at quarterback. I think that could be a plus, in the future. Yet at the same time, I'm trying to think of what else that would, maybe come into play. I don't know. I just, we just want to play competitive football. And it'll be hard to do this week, too. Just going there, playing against a really, really talented team.
So is there a chance we see more quarterback packages, maybe, some different personnel?
I don't know about that. Yeah, and you don't wish that. Is that, it's just something where, golly, we've had a bunch of positions, probably 19 spots where we've played two guys at least. What is that? Is that mark 40 snaps at least for at least two different guys at 19 spots? And yet, golly, the good part is we've had the same quarterback, fortunately, to play each game.
And Adam Karras is coming in, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm.
What as a local kid, I mean, I know that's always been a good thing for your program to get the local guys you can, but I guess tell me about his progression and everything else.
Yeah, I'll tell you just a really, really good frame. I thought last year in the middle of the year, you could see a light bulb really go on for him. And he's improved. He missed a good bit of the offseason with the surgery. But he's improved as the season's gone on, and a guy that I think really has a heck of a future here. He is sharp, so he can play, both tackle spots, a guy that can be involved even with some of our special teams too. Just some things down the road where I think he could be utilized also. And if I'm not mistaken, he was kind of a rotating in third tackle at the beginning of the year, right? And now he's become a regular starter. Well, him and Kay, they both played a bunch, at that right tackle spot. And I could, 1 week it could be Adam that starts, 1 week it could be where it's Caleb Holcomb that starts. But those three guys, including Everett Smalley over at left tackle, We've been fortunate to be able to play 3 tackles and get quality play too.
And just big picture, I mean, how important do you think this week is, or does your mindset never change in that it's the one you've got in front of you?
That's the way we operate, and I think here you never ever you know how hard it's just so difficult to win here, and so each game that you play, that's where we put all of our marbles or chips or whatever it may be, and yet to back up even prior to that is just how much we put into a practice, including this afternoon's.
And you talked about turnover margin as a positive for UNLV. Is that a concern on your side, and what is being done to address it, or is it can you?
Yeah, I think you need to play. We need to get more guys that play, and I think as they get more snaps, I think you're going to be better that way. I think especially defensively, as guys get settled in, if we can, we have the same 11 guys out there. I think you just recognize instantly you got a guy stood up. I see an exposure or an opportunity to be able to take advantage of it. It's a punch out. Or if I know you have leverage on that side of a player, that being able to undercut a route, just those are little things that I think come with experience too.
Okay. And with Bo Richter, the position he's been able to do on the outside, would he still be a possibility to come inside if there was
possibly?
Okay, that ship hasn't sailed, at least for this year.
No,
he can still go back and forth.
Yes, sir.
Start with being a Colorado guy. Like, were you born and raised in the Denver area, or did you come? When did you move here? If you didn't?
Yeah, I was born in Arvada, so I was actually born in Boulder, so I've been here my whole life.
Where was Air Force on your radar as a kid, as a fan, or was it even? Did it even make a blip?
Yeah, growing up, you just see all the teams in Colorado, and it was always fun to watch them. My dad would always tell me about the Air Force because he was in the Navy, so it always came up in conversation and stuff.
Okay, being a Navy, did you have that option as a recruit? Were the other academies, did they pop up?
Army did late, but Navy never did. But I knew I wanted to come here if it was a service academy. Okay. So yeah.
And what other other offers did you have? Were there any other FBS teams, or was this kind of the only one?
Yeah, I had quite a few Mountain West teams also. Ironically enough, UNLV, and just a lot of Mountain West and Boulder. So yeah.
Did you give UNLV some consideration?
I went on a visit there. I tried to visit most of the schools that offered me. If they give me their time, I want to give them my time back. I thought it was pretty.
Since it's UNLV week, what stood out? What do you remember from that trip, or what were some of the variables as you maybe considered?
I just remember it was really close to the Strip. That's kind of all I remember. It was a long summer. A lot of it blurred together. It was really hot when I went too. And yeah, ate In-N-Out for the first time, so that was really fun.
Was the proximity to the Strip a good or a bad thing?
For me, I don't think it mattered. I'm not the type of guy to go out there and get all involved with the activities on the Strip. So I thought it was kind of cool, actually, because it's the first time I've been to Vegas. Got to see everything.
And given the way last year's game against UNLV went, you guys didn't even attempt to pass and beat them 48-21 or something like that. How does that influence the preparation for this week? Is it, knowing you have done that against this program, does that mean anything because they've had so many changes, or is there a confidence you gain from that?
I think last year's team is a completely different team than the team we'll face this year. You have to just look at every week like it's a new week. We have a new game plan for this week than we have the other weeks. So just going into this week with a fresh mind and ready to take on this team this week.
And when you look at the conference race, or do you look at the conference race, now that you guys have the 2 losses, does it put any more, not pressure, but just kind of an emphasis on each game, or is it still the same mindset that you take the whole season?
Yeah. Honestly, I don't really look at the rankings and standings. I'm not that type of person. I never get really involved in that. But, having the 2 conference losses, as losing, it's not ideal in any circumstance. But you always have to just look at the next game. So I think we're all focused on UNLV this week, and while losing last week to Wyoming wasn't ideal, we just know we have to come out and perform against UNLV.
And your role, you've played a little bit of both tackles, right? And last year, were you sort of you go in a double tackle set, and you'd kind of be The second one, was that your spot?
Yeah, so I played a little bit of tight end last year.
It was tight end.
It was, yeah. And then up until I think CSU week, I went back to tackle for that week, and then now I've stayed tackle. And as in like Utah State, we run like a 3-tackle package. So it's kind of interesting. Every week it's kind of new, and they either expand the role or add something new. And I think it's always interesting. I'm just grateful that I get to go play. So.
Has that helped you to kind of see things from different angles and different views, or would you prefer to kind of master that one skill set from one spot?
No, I think moving to tight end was really good for me personally, because just looking at the defense from a different perspective, it helps you like go back, and when you go back to like tackle, for me at least, I've been able to see the defense in different ways that I haven't before, and being able to like run out and block safeties and skill guys, it feels a little easier for me because that was more of my role as tight end.
Okay. And being at the halfway point in the season, as you kind of look at the first 6 games, is there anything you look at as, wow, we have excelled in any specific areas?
I think just always our team preparation. I feel like every week we go out there, and personally I always feel really prepared for the game. As a team, I think we can all say that. And just the unity that we have when we go and play. I don't think we ever have a doubt that our friend next to us is going to play with everything they have. So I think that's the biggest strength for us.
Are there any areas where you feel like maybe you guys haven't been as good as you could have been in the first 6 games?
Personally, I don't think so. I think every game we've gone out there and we've done the best that we could to all of our ability. Yeah.
Okay. And back to just being the Colorado guy, like how important is it do you think, for Air Force to get more and more, local or in-state guys just to, to build interest, to keep the homegrown talent here? Like, are there other ways you see that as a positive, and how important do you think it is?
Yeah, I for sure think it's a positive. I think they already have quite a few Colorado guys. Obviously Brad Roberts, myself, and just other guys throughout the entire team. I think it's really important for recruiting to have that home state interest. Yeah, I think they do a good job though of keeping the Colorado kids in.
Did you ever play down here in high school?
I played at Fountain Fort Carson. I think that was the only game. Had a couple track meets down here. That was
What'd you do in track?
Throwing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's your major?
I'm a management major.
Management. Okay.
Yeah.
Can you go into acquisitions? Is that kind of the plan, or?
Pilot, hopefully, if I'm qualified, to finish the rest of the pilot qualification stuff. But maybe acquisitions or logistics if I'm not pilot qualified.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what's the vibe with the fellas, and what's the what you have seen in the locker room, the practice field, that you put a loss behind you and focus on Saturday?
Yeah, so from the game, it was definitely a tough loss. Just seeing what Utah was able to do with the ball, it's definitely devastating considering that we pride ourselves in stopping the run. But morale-wise, we're still just as competitive as we were before. So leading forward, we made some changes. We lost a couple of guys. A couple of guys are going to be brought up. So we're looking forward to keep doing what we've aimed to do since the beginning of the season.
In a lot of ways, this offense you face is balanced like the last. You can run the ball very well, but all of a sudden they'll spread you out. They got some big wide receivers and a quarterback that has come in and has passed for a bunch of yards. What do you see from UNLV's offense that gives you that perks you up a little bit?
Yeah, so they're a completely different team than they were last year. So they have a lot of athletic guys over there. Definitely a lot of good competitors, as if you pay attention to the games that they played. So comparing them to Utah State, they're very similar. The receivers are just as tall, just as fast, just as capable. So I think it's just going to rely on the secondary again to do our jobs, slow the passing game, so we can let our guys in the trenches handle it from there.
Been a lot of moving parts on both sides of the ball for you guys. How do you, as a starter, a leader, make sure that when you guys are mixing and matching parts and guys are moving around, that you're still achieving at a high level and you don't let things kind of slip?
Yeah, so the biggest piece is just for myself and like the other leaders on the team, is we make sure to talk to the guys that are coming up. So being able to give them that piece of like, it's the same game we've been playing for however long we decided to start playing as like from kids. So from that moment on, there's nothing to worry about. Play with confidence, trusting your brothers to do what we need to do on and off the field, and by any means, we're going to be just fine.
When you would have looked at the schedule in maybe July or August, would this have been a game that you kind of would have circled as a major challenge, or have they really kind of changed themselves and in doing so changed your schedule?
Yeah, from my point of view, I respect every opponent. Like everyone has just guys who have something to offer in terms of just on the offense and defense. So UNLV in my opinion, has came a long way just from last year to now, and the people that they've been able to bring in from the portal. It's just gonna be a fun competition, just like how every other team in the Mountain West. We're just gonna have a great time and just compete the way we play as Falcons.
And with the cornerback room just being a rotating door of guys playing, is it helping the overall knowledge in the room, because everybody's got to be at attention when you're learning things? And does that help that you can at least feed off each other and ask each other questions?
Oh, 100%. Like when you have everyone in the room just paying complete attention, asking each other questions just from like what it looks like on the field and from a coach's perspective. In terms of just like a secondary, I think we are some of like the most well-prepared secondaries in the nation, just because we give a lot of our young guys opportunities to, just expand the game. So, and when, like I said, even though we have some guys out, they're still coaching up, giving little pieces here and there. So I have no fear for what the young guys are able to do.
And being one of those guys last year who stepped in, have you been able to use that to kind of pass on some pointers?
Oh, 100%. Like my first start against Nevada, seeing NFL prospects like firsthand, so like it was kind of a rude awakening of what D1 college football looks like. But from that point on, I've used that as a benchmark, and used that as it's kind of like a joke that the game I played is nothing like what these guys are going to be playing. So just be confident, play, just do what you got to do, and at the end of the day, just do your job, and everything will always be fine.
And the venue you're going to play in, playing at the Raiders' new facility, is there some excitement over going in, seeing that, and just being there? Well,
that's 100%. Just being just a fan of the NFL and all the teams. Like, I'm a Lions fan. Been born into that, right? I played it at Ford Field, so every time we have an opportunity to go into a really nice facility and just giving ourselves that point of view of what a competitive environment is going to be, it's a wonderful opportunity.
You played at Ford Field. Was that like a state championship game, or?
Unfortunately not. I was there for it was like a high school tournament. So like they brought in a bunch of high schools from all over Michigan, and we competed on a big 7-on-7 tournament, and we didn't get far, but it was a great opportunity to be in. And I think I got to meet a couple players at that time. I don't remember who they were because I was so locked into the environment, but it was a great time.
Okay, and then the halfway point of the season, as you kind of look back over the first 6 games, are there some areas that you feel like you guys have maybe excelled in that maybe surprised you a little?
It's the growth, just the personal growth as players. When you have so many guys just rotating in and out, like that's the whole basis of Falcon football is we need guys to step up. So when you have these opportunities to do so, and we're able to perform, just being able to grow as a player and seeing just all the moving parts and expanding our knowledge of the game is what separates.
Has there been a defensive MVP so far?
Defensive MVP? I always my favorite person on the field is, Chris. But in terms of just defensive MVP, no. There's so many guys that contribute that, to just narrow it down to just one player, it kind of, does an injustice for all the other players who just, work their tail off on the field.
Okay. And then the converse of that, first 6 games, any areas you feel like you guys maybe have left, have been lacking and can still improve on?
Yeah, 100%. Everything leading up to now, just especially the 2 losses against YO and Utah State, I 100% believe it was on us, just not being able to secure the run game and, letting go of quite a few big plays on the passing game. So being able to bring those down and just slow the game and let our offense do what they do best, the rest of the season just looks very promising.
Okay. And being from Michigan, sorry to keep so long, but not a lot of guys I can think of from Michigan who played here. I'm sure there's more than I know of. But how did they pop on your radar, and who did you have to kind of, talk about this with?
Yeah, so recruiting with Coach Vanderlinden, he's no longer here anymore. First of all, outstanding guy. Miss him as a coach. Like, he was a big mentor for me when it came to, applying for the academy and getting to the point where I am. But he actually grew up down the street from me in Dearborn. So I guess, like, just being able to know the area. And that year, like my junior year, I was having a great season. He came along. I guess I got lucky, or I was able to do the right things to be put in the right positions to be able to talk to that nice man. But, yeah, I pretty much owe him everything.
How'd you educate yourself on what to expect here, at Academy?
Oh, I think everyone for the most part has a big culture shock. From Michigan, having basically all my freedoms and doing what I needed to do or what I wanted to do, basically, to being pushed into a highly disciplined structure and institution. Like I said, culture shock. Went to the prep school, made it to now. A lot of it is just being able to, I guess, believe in yourself, to know that, like, the hard road is going to get rough, and you just got to just put your head to the grindstone and keep working, because it's going to pay off eventually.